Salutations! I'm the Earthstruck Artist, and today I'm making Jinx. But in order to make Jinx, we have to traumatize a Hermione doll first. To do that, we begin by ripping off her head, cutting off her hair, and removing all of her face paint with acetone. Surprisingly not as violent as it sounds. She's then given a new Widow's Peak hairline with blue acrylic paint. Then I prep her face with a spray of Mr. Super Clear sealant. Jinx has a lot of shades and values to her face, and I build them up slowly using chalk pastels. Beginning with some of the lighter pinks that are on her face and a little bit harder to see except for when you look close up. A dark watercolor pencil is used to color in the nostrils of her nose, and then brown pastel is used to shade the bottom of her nose. A kneaded eraser is used to clean up excess pastels, such as on the sides of her nose when contouring. It extends onto the sides of her cheeks and into the deep corners of her eyes of a light brown. I highlighted the bridge of her nose and her forehead with white chalk pastels. I begin sketching into place where her eyes and eyebrows are going to be on her face with a lighter color than I intend on finishing with. I then blush her ears, and then I highlight the inner corner of her eye with white, extending it down to around her eye bag. Going back in with a white watercolor pencil, I highlight her forehead, bridge of her nose, and the whites of her eyes. I start shaping her mouth with a dark purple and start drawing very faint lines on her bottom lip to give her subtle lip creases. I darken her top lip fully and much darker than her bottom one. I highlight her upper lip with white pastels, and then outline her cupid's bow with a white pencil. I sketch in her irises with a dark blue pencil and begin darkening her eyebrows with a black one. When colors stop building as the way I'd want them to, I spray her with another layer of Mr. Super Clear. I continue pushing her white highlights and darkening her eyebrows more and more. She then gets her freckles from light pokes of a brown pencil. I then give her dark eyeliner using a sharp black pencil. I begin darkening and shading her iris with a dark blue pencil and giving her pupils. Shit, I accidentally did the fucking dots without having recorded it. Oh well, one is slightly bigger than the other. I do end up giving her a second eye highlight, also off camera. Her body tattoos are done in basically the same process as her face up. I start by spraying her with Mr. Super Clear and sketch on her tattoos with a white pencil. I then go back in blue pastels and pencils. It's slightly tedious trying to hold her without smudging up all of her tattoos, but you get used to it. Since my pencils are watercolor pencils, I'd often wet them to make them more vibrant and flow smoother. If you're wondering how I keep her from smudging in between Mr. Super Clear sprays, I actually have a pretty sophisticated setup I have for her. Here is her full face up in tattoos and her black painted on glove on her right forearm. I made her bracelet out of a small strip of foam that I painted black and glued to her wrist. For her pants, I start with a simple pants pattern design on a piece of parchment paper that I draw her body type onto. After I sew the two pieces together, I cut the bottom edges jagged and press flat the seams with a heated butter knife. Weird, but it works. I also had to take in the pants as they were a bit too baggy. I included Velcro closing in the back, but they ended up being permanently affixed to her anyway. The stripes on her pants are first sketched out in a white charcoal pencil and then painted over in a lighter purple than the natural pants fabric are. She also has a thinner green-gray gold-like stripe in between the purples, and I hand-mixed that color and kind of winged it, painting it on. The back doesn't look too great, but it's going to be covered up anyway in the end. She has excess fabrics hanging from her hips, and I made those by first sketching out their base shapes on the parchment paper, and then tracing it onto fabric with excess room at the top to be able to cut and then tuck into the hem of the pants. Her left forearm has a sleeve that I made by folding and painting the same fabric as her pants. Which would then be later glued to her arm. Just above that is another part of her sleeve that I made just by sewing black fabric directly to her elbow. Her top is a bit more complicated. But after I sketched it out, I decided to start with the two triangles that make up the front and back of the piece. I sketched them onto brown fabric with extra room for the inseams. Cut them out, and then hem every side but the bottom. That I just kind of touch up with glue. I then sew a long, thin piece of fabric to the width that I want her straps to be. And prepare a small metal loop to be placed upon it, as the two front straps will connect to it in the back. I begin cutting to size and sewing the straps of her top onto the triangles, but my phone only has so much storage space, so I'm gonna have to cut this in 2 parts. See you in part 2! I also have a Patreon and an Instagram if you would like to see some more behind the scenes and are an impatient little fuck like me. So, see you soon. Toodles!